Hello, I am Digital T, and here we're going to go over the abilities and feats of the legendary devil hunter Dante. Here's some background on Dante. Dante is from the Devil May Cry series, the son of Sparta, and the twin brother of Virgil. Sparta was a demon lieutenant that saved the human world several times from Mundus, Argisax, and other demon threats. We will get into those villains and their power very soon. Dante is half demon and half human and was provided the sword Rebellion by his father Sparta. Let's continue on to his abilities and skills. With Dante being a descendant of Sparta, he is able to use demon abilities. His most notable ones are a transformation he has done in every single Devil May Cry game, this being his Devil Trigger form. With this transformation, Dante's strength, speed, durability, and overall ability are increased significantly. When first fighting Virgil in Devil May Cry 3, Dante didn't have his Devil Trigger form unlocked and lost to Virgil. But later in the story, he unlocks his form and is able to keep up with Virgil and best him later. With the Devil Trigger form, Dante is able to do even more. This includes the ability to hover with the Air Raid or Glider ability. However, this isn't even Dante's strongest form. We still have his Sin Devil Trigger form that he unlocks near the end of Devil May Cry 5, which allowed Dante to defeat Urizen in Devil May Cry 5, which we will be going over in a bit. Dante is incredibly proficient in any weapon that he gets his hands on. More often than not, the weapons he finds are not something that he would have trained on before, and he quickly displays how to use them at their peak with his experience in combat. Regeneration. If you know anything about Dante, you probably know that he takes a lot of damage, but he also heals incredibly fast, as shown in several of the games. Then he has his styles. So I'm not going to get into Swordmaster or Gunslinger, as these are just styles of Dante showing his melee ability along with using his devil arms, which we kind of went over already with his proficiency in weapons already. So we do have Doppelganger. And real quick, I wanted to shout out DECosmic for providing the clips on Doppelganger and Quicksilver. He's a speedrunner of all sorts of action games and is very well known for learning all of the Devil May Cry games as well. Make sure to check out his Twitch and let him know that Digital sent you over. So with Doppelganger, it is described as a style that allows the player to control shadows, effectively creating copies of himself to assist in battle. Another one is Quicksilver. This is described as a time-controlling style in which the player can move at lightning-quick speeds. This description is important, in that Dante isn't stopping time. He's actually moving at incredible speed while time around him is significantly slowed down, which we're going to get into more here in a little bit. He also has Trick, which is described as allows player to avoid enemy attacks using special evasive movements. What we can see specifically in the game mechanics is that this allows Dante to quickly dash around along with teleporting short distances when in combat. Royal Guard is described as minimize the damage of an enemy attack. This move allows the player to maneuver into a more strategic position. What we see in the games is more like this. If well timed, he can absorb the damage that an enemy is sending at him, then Dante is able to release the stored up energy back at his enemy. So take this with a grain of salt, as this is the case for the in-game mechanics, and Dante hasn't done it before during cutscenes where he gets defeated by enemies like Urizen or Virgil. Also, the description that is provided to us on Royal Guard says that it minimizes the damage of an enemy attack. It doesn't say it negates, nullifies, or absorbs it completely. Wanted to point that out. Equipment Dante has. There are a lot of weapons that Dante has accrued over time, but these are the most notable and most powerful. Ebony and Ivory. These pistols were created with Dante in mind, as he can fire pistols like a machine gun and with insane accuracy and precision. Pandora. So this one is a box. It is called Pandora. I won't say it's supposed to be Pandora's box, but I'm not saying that the hint can't be made. This weapon is noted in the description to have 666 different forms to use it, and you bet that Dante would be able to figure them all out with his experience. The ones that we do know of involve Pandora transforming into a machine gun, a rocket launcher, and a literal laser beam with the insane speed and reach. Rebellion. This sword was provided to Dante when he was a child and has been with Dante through several games. The Rebellion is the sword that was provided to Dante by his father Sparta, as Virgil received the Yamato. In Devil May Cry 3, when we first see Dante, the sword is in an unawakened state, but when Virgil stabs Dante with his own sword, it awakens, and we see that Dante uses his Devil Trigger form for the first time. This weapon is powerful and durable specifically because it clashed with the Yamato and has been used to defeat mighty demons. Devil Sword Sparta. This sword is the Force Edge transformed when the amulets of Dante and Virgil are brought together. We first see this in Devil May Cry 3 when Arkham is able to get his hands on it. With the goal of retrieving the Sword of Sparta himself, eventually Arkham loses it and the sword goes to Dante. but Virgil is able to take his half of the amulet back, and the sword returns back to the Force Edge form. In Devil May Cry 1, it allows Dante to summon a demon to attack Mundus when they fight in the underworld. It doesn't transform Dante into the demon shown here. It is a summon that Dante uses. Just want to point that out. With this, it empowers the wielder as well. This is shown when Sanctus uses it to fight Nero, and has a very different look about him, along with being stronger than when Nero and him previously fought. In Devil May Cry 3, it shares that this sword has Sparta's power inside of it, also further proving how it empowers. Devil Sword Dante. This sword is what comes to be when Dante wields the Sword of Sparta and stabs himself with the rebellion. Don't worry, there is logic with this. The Yamato was able to split demon from human, hence Virgil splitting into Urizen and V. The opposite happens here in that Dante is wielding the Sword of Sparta. With it being the sword of a demon, it combines with Dante and the Rebellion, which immediately unlocks Dante's Sin Devil Trigger form, which we will get into next with abilities and skills. Alastor. This was the first weapon that Dante retrieves in Devil May Cry 1 and provides the wielder with the speed and power of lightning. Something important about this is that Dante's Devil May Cry 3 takes place before Devil May Cry 1. So Dante would have the ability to move at lightning speed with Quicksilver already. With Alastor, this would significantly amplify Dante's speed. With the combination of in base form moving at lightning speed and then being able to slow down time to the point that his base speed before Alastor would be at lightning speed in perception to everything affected, Dante's speed is absurd. Let's get into it. So the speed of lightning is 270,000 miles per hour. So if you multiply that on itself, you have Dante being able to move at the speed of 72,900,000,000 miles per hour. So if you break this down to seconds, we'll take that and divide that by 3,600, which would be 20,250,000 miles per second. And at the widest point on Earth, which is the equator, and the circumference is 24,900 miles across, that would mean that Dante would be able to travel 813 times around the Earth in 1 second. The speed of light is 670 million miles per hour, which means that Alastor and Quicksilver together, Dante can travel a total of 108.7 times faster than light. Keep in mind, this is all in base, not his Devil Trigger form or the Sin Devil Trigger form, which only multiplies his power, making him massively faster than light. The feats he has been able to perform, Dante's physical strength is insane enough for him in base form to block strikes from the savior that was being commanded by Sanctus, who was empowered by the Blade of Sparta and an imprisoned Nero. For reference, the Blade of Sparta was originally used by Sparta himself, who was able to defeat the king of the underworld Mundus, who we will be talking about shortly. As for reaction time, Dante, while taunting a lesser demon that is called Chaos, Dante avoids the attack, and while the Chaos demon is spinning against the environment, Dante puts his face right up against the dangerous spinning spikes and is able to react to the demon trying to attack Dante. Another feat is when Dante meets another demon that is classified as Furies. Here is information on Furies from the enemy file in Devil May Cry 3 by Nico. Quote, I got this theory that demons mutate based on their deepest, darkest desires. So take this big lizard, it wants to hunt, right? It wants to go faster, wants to kill faster, day in, day out. All it can think of is speed. A few generations of that twisted killer instinct, and you get a freak so fast it ain't moving under its own power no more. This sucker uses a raw demonic power to do little space-time jumps. It'll warp right next to you and bite your face off before you can blink. Hope you got quick reflexes. His durability is nothing to scoff at either. Dante regularly has been impaled, which would kill any other demon, but Dante casually walks it off and can continue his typical banter while the sword is still all the way through him. Along with his durability, Dante can quickly regen any damage that happens to him, and this is further enhanced in his Devil Trigger and Sin Devil Trigger forms, which we're going to be explained right now. When Dante originally fights Urizen and only has his Devil Trigger form, the two clash and made the earth shake. With his Sin Devil Trigger form, Dante went from not being able to even scratch Urizen to completely and utterly defeating Urizen, who was later further empowered by the Qliphothoth fruit, further amplifying Dante's abilities to unbelievable levels. Now for the next two scaling feats, we're going to talk about the underworld itself, and it has been stated several times throughout the games that the underworld is infinite in size, or an endless void. And here are some direct references to the size itself. So Dante has defeated a demon named Nightmare. This demon was created to help Mundus, the king of the underworld. In Nightmare's enemy profile, it shows that Nightmare has the power to destroy the underworld. At the same time, it has been referenced several times that the underworld is infinite in size, meaning that with Dante defeating Nightmare, his attack potency is going to be low multiversal at least, as he's able to defeat a being that is capable of destroying a dimension that is infinite in size. To further add, in the Book of V, It is shared that Urizen is stronger than Mundus and Argisax. Both of them were previously the king of the underworld at different times. After Dante unlocks his Sin Devil Trigger form, he is able to defeat Urizen by himself, meaning that Dante now scales higher than Urizen, Argisax, Pluto, and Mundus by the end of Devil May Cry 5. With this, Dante would be at least relative, if not stronger, than his father Sparta, as both of them defeated Mundus and Argisax. You can make the argument that he is stronger now because of the fact that he defeated Urizen strictly by feats. Let's go over the enemies that he's defeated now with some details on them. Everyone here is someone that Dante has defeated, and we're going to be going over how strong they are. Arkham. Dante first fights Arkham when he is disguised as the Jester, who is capable of dodging bullets, catching a book while throwing Lady off the ledge, teleporting, superhuman strength as he was able to fight off a weakened Dante, Virgil, and Lady at the same time. For a short time, Arkham was able to receive the power of Sparta when he got the Force Edge along with Dante and Virgil's portions of the amulet. Even with the speed, strength, intellect, and abilities that Arkham had, he was defeated by a very young Dante and Virgil. Nero. For those that aren't aware, Nero is one of the main playable characters in Devil May Cry 4, and spoilers, he is a descendant of Sparta, specifically Dante's nephew. When Dante and Nero fight, Nero looks to have the upper hand, but you very quickly find out that Dante was holding back significantly. When they fight a second time, we see that Dante doesn't intend to let Nero win this time, and with Nero having the Yamato in his arsenal, he is able to use a pseudo Devil Trigger form that shows the Nello Angelo silhouette. On top of this, Nero is very fast, very durable, and incredibly skilled. Skilled enough to defeat Sanctus, who was empowered by the Sword of Sparta, who even without the sword defeated Nero previously. Nightmare. When Dante meets Nightmare in the original Devil May Cry game, you don't think much of it other than he is a big blob that works for Mundus. We find out more on its attack potency in the Visions of V. To give some quick background, Virgil was on the brink of death, and at one point was Nello Angelo, who served Mundus, not by choice to point out. Anyways, working for Mundus gave Virgil insight on Mundus' subordinates, including Nightmare, who was created by Mundus. Later, Virgil was split into two beings, this being V and Urizen. V has Virgil's memories and mentions Nightmare was created by Mundus with the power to destroy the underworld. This is impressive, in that it is referenced several times that the underworld is infinite in size. To finally circle back around, Dante was able to defeat Nightmare several times in the first game. Argisax. At one point, Argisax was a ruler of the demon world, or at least a portion of it, after Mundus. But after that, Argisax and Mundus were at war with one another when Mundus was the Demon King. While Argisax doesn't seem as powerful as Mundus, the fact that the demon world was split into two sides and Argisax was able to build his own army that would believe in him enough to challenge Mundus' reign does give credit to how strong Argisax was. When Argisax and Sparta fought, Sparta was in a weakened state and needed the help of the Protectors to help seal him away. His abilities included possessing others like Arius, who had easily defeated Lucia at one point, where Lucia had been defending humans from demons her whole life. To add to this, historically only those that are the most powerful are able to rule the underworld, meaning at this time Argisax was the strongest, if not one of the strongest. Mundus, the king of the underworld. Mundus was a powerful demon in the underworld, and then he ate a Qliphothr fruit that made him powerful enough to become the king of the underworld. He was the big bad demon that Sparta sealed away, sent demonic forces to attack Dante and his family when he was a kid, ruled the underworld before Argisax, and consumed the Qliphothr fruit to take Pluto's spot as the king of the underworld, and wasn't challenged until Sparta decided to. Obviously, it's not enough to talk about a title, but Mundus, while not having his full power, did have a fight with Virgil after Dante and Virgil fought in Devil May Cry 3, was able to defeat Virgil and make him his slave as a Nello Angelo. Keep in mind, Virgil and Dante have always been relative to each other as well. Mundus created Trish, who is an incredibly powerful demon that eventually allies with Dante, and finally Mundus created and controlled the demon named Nightmare. Then when he realized Nightmare was so powerful, he had to make sure that Nightmare would follow his lead. To be able to create a being of that power would mean that Mundus has amazing power as well. This is shown when he fights with Dante in the original game, and Dante is on the verge of losing until Trish provides Dante with a buff that helps seal him away, just like his father Sparta had done before. Except at this point, Dante was not able to completely do it by himself, meaning that Mundus alone would have defeated Dante at that time. Virgil is the twin brother of Dante, has demonic abilities just like Dante, and wields the Yamato, Sparta's third sword of power, the other two being the Rebellion and the Sword of Sparta. When Virgil and Dante fight in Devil May Cry 3, Virgil defeats Dante, who hadn't learned his Devil Trigger ability yet. The two fight again in the same game, to where Dante defeats him, and fight several times in the original Devil May Cry game as well. In the first game, Virgil defeats Dante in the form of Nello Angelo. Then the two fight two more times, to where Dante is the winner. The latest fight here is at the end of Devil May Cry 5, and the two seem to be the closest they have ever been. To get into Virgil and his abilities, he can use Devil Trigger, and has the Sin Devil Trigger form just like Dante. With this, Virgil wields the Yamato that can create portals that lead to the underworld, and when in the underworld, he can return back to the human world as well. Urizen, the only character in Devil May Cry to absolutely decimate Dante, was Urizen. This happened in Devil May Cry 5. Dante lost the fight when in his Devil Trigger form, wielding the Sword of Sparta, and had Nero to help him. Urizen defeated both of them, and before that, he defeated Lady and Trish as well. I would like to add, Urizen did all of this while never leaving his chair and wasn't challenged to the point of receiving any damage until later in the game when Nero was able to scratch his hand, which literally took everything for Nero to do so. Granted, he was using Devil Breakers that were manufactured by Nico, but more on that in my Devil May Cry 5 explained video I'm working on. After Dante wakes up from being unconscious for 1 month, he learns how to activate his new form of Devil Trigger, which was the Sin Devil Trigger. With this, Dante was able to defeat Urizen and force him to retreat. Then when they fight again and Urizen consumes a Qliphothr fruit, keep in mind this is the same thing that Mundus consumed that propelled him to be powerful enough to be the king of the underworld. With this buff that Urizen received, he still lost to Dante in his Sin Devil Trigger form. I'm going to keep Dante at low multiversal with massively faster than light. And once I get my hands on the DMC app to go through it myself, we can see how fast he is with the Pluto feats I've seen screenshots on. But as far as that, until I can see it for myself, that is where I'm going to put him. Otherwise, he could get much higher. Let me know if you enjoyed the video and what you think. And if you want to see more, feel free to subscribe. Thank you.